Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know this is the last session for the day, so this is kind of you to assemble here before we break for the day. So today we have a few things to talk about. First, I wanted to introduce a Delta Community Credit Union to all of you, and then briefly go through our journey with Teradata. We've been a long time Teradata partner for almost 15, 16 years, I would say. And it's been a great relationship, so want to share some details there, and then we can jump into the topic du jour, Agentic AI, which I'm sure everybody is just waiting to hear, right? I mean, that's all we've been hearing for the last few days. So I'll add my perspective to it, I guess. Okay, so how many of you, just a quick pulse check, how many of you know what a credit union is? I don't see all hands up, so I'm going to briefly talk about credit unions, but if you all want to know a lot more and much more eloquently than I can describe, then we have our Chief Operating Officer from our company here, Matthew Shepard. Please come and talk to him, and he can tell you a lot about all that we do, all the cool things we do. So, yeah. So a credit union is essentially a nonprofit cooperative, financial cooperative, and we're all about our members. So we are not driven by shareholder profits. We really care about driving true better financial outcomes for our members. So that's who we are in a nutshell. And all the decisions we make, all the great things we do with data truly is to make the financial lives of our members better, leave it better. We are member-owned, and all our customers, we call them members. We don't call them customers. And a tagline that we like to use is, "We are what your bank should be." So no offense to banks here, if we have banks here in the audience, but we take it to another level in terms of how we think about our members and how we really care about them. So I'm just going to jump a few slides here. So the credit union difference is all about how credit unions, when credit unions have been surveyed, we've shown that they truly, the difference that they make has been registered by customers across the spectrum, irrespective of the demographics or irrespective of the geo region they come from. They definitely get a lot of value from credit unions. So about Delta Community Credit Union. So we are the largest credit union in Georgia. We've been around for about 85 years. We started as a Delta Airline credit union, and then quickly in 2000, I wouldn't say quickly, in 2005, we took on a community charter, which means that we opened our doors to people within the metro Atlanta area, and that's who we serve. That's who we consider our community, and we focus on their needs and try to solve them the best we can. We offer a wide range of financial products and services, just like other banks do, and we take a lot of pride in being trusted by our members and recognized as one of the best places to work. So we've been winning that award to our CEO's delight for the last 5 years, I think. Consecutively, we've been placing in the top 5. And really, our commitment to good is something that we take really seriously. Every year, we reinvest about 2 to 3% of our annual net income directly back into the community. Through scholarships, philanthropy, financial education programs. A lot of these financial education programs have been award-winning programs that we are really known for. So we really have a big stake in improving the communities that we work in. So this picture here highlights what it is we do with Teradata. Teradata is, like I said, been a long-term partner for us. And it is the foundation of our data strategy. We have brought in about 80 plus data sources from across the ecosystem into the Teradata Vantage platform, created a single platform, and it powers everything from operational reporting to advanced analytics. All of this comes out of Teradata. So as you can see, as you go from the left to the right, at the left side, you can see the data ingestion and sensitivity controls. So data comes from diverse systems, including our core banking, digital platforms, even something as humble as a spreadsheet gets ingested into the Teradata landing zone. And before it gets touched by any user, we go through a process of ensuring privacy and compliance from day one. We use a product called Protegrity, which helps us completely anonymize all of our sensitive data elements. This is a key part of who we are because we take our customers' data very seriously. And so from the get-go, privacy and good data governance is at the heart of our strategy. We also have various types of ingestion. A lot of it is batch. Particularly notable is our core system gives us batch data still, and we're still working on making that real time. But there are several sources that feed us this data in real time. We're able to ingest this at that speed. And then as we go down towards the right, you see data assets. We get all of our ingested data sets. We organize them and set them up by domains. You see things like members, transactions, products. So it's all harmonized and curated and standardized so that we can now use that as a trusted corporate asset and make it available to our customers. Most of our people that are using the data are internal. So it's our marketing teams to our credit risk teams across the business. So at the bottom, you see some data products that we have created. Member 360 being a notable one, where we bring in all types of information about the member and build it into one seamless profile. So we can tell everything that a member has in terms of the products and services, the channels that they use, the types of interactions, their transactions, all of it. And then in the consumption layer, we have a variety of ways to consume that data. We have MicroStrategy, which is our enterprise BI tool, where a lot of that operational reporting, regulatory reporting, all of that happens there. We also use Tableau. Our marketing teams like Tableau. They like that interface better. So that's what they use. But we have our data science team as well, using the data that we have harmonized and made available, either through some of these data products or directly against some of those validated data sets. So in terms of business impact, Teradata really is at the heart of everything we do in terms of our analytics. So they've been a vital partner for us. It truly enables a member 360 view, and it powers insights across the organization for us. We use it for self-service BI, governance, and then advanced analytics. Like I said, we have several models that are being built from this rich data that we have. We've also started experimenting with some of the generative AI use cases where we've experimented with RAG pipelines. We're beginning to use LLMs for counterparty resolution type of entity name resolution, and other needs that we've identified, sentiment analysis being another one. Risk and compliance, that is a huge emphasis. When our examiners are on site, we're able to tap into the intelligence in this platform to answer questions at speed of light, and sometimes the examiners have commented how easily they can get the answers, and they're just amazed at how quickly we can get that done. So I'd like to say that whether it is BI, whether it is compliance, whether it is predictive analytics, and as we move towards some of these emerging AI use cases, Teradata is giving us that scale, trust, and flexibility to move along with them and to explore some of these capabilities. And with them as our partner, I feel we are really well positioned to take the next step. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about next. So I know you've heard a lot about Agentic AI. We've heard from various speakers in the last couple of days. But I thought it would be beneficial for all of us to hone in on, a consistent definition that we can all agree upon before we go into describing some of our ideas, our vision for how we see Agentic AI unfolding at Delta Community. So as you know, a lot has been said about this, so I'm just going to add a few perspectives here. Agentic AI is goal-driven intelligence, as we all understand it. So it's AI that's able to perceive, it's able to reason, it's able to plan, it's able to decide and act, most importantly, right? So to give you an example of how we would potentially use this, take the example of a member retention agent that's constantly monitoring a member's engagement. So when it notices that a member, they've not used their card in a while or their account in a while, generally it would stop at sending them some type of an alert or some type of a trigger to activate or re-engage. But Agentic AI takes it to a next level, right? So it would analyze their behavior. It would build context around everything we know about this member, previously. All of that is living in Teradata, as I mentioned. It would recommend a relevant offer. It would also pull policies, like to see, do we have the permissions with this person, right? Do we have the right to do an outreach to them through marketing channels? What type of products can we offer them given the constraints? What are the policy limitations, et cetera? And that's AI. It's not waiting for instructions. It's able to act on behalf of the organization and scale and amplify the things we can do, right? So that's just one example of the things that we see as possible for us. And for us, it is about really amplifying and scaling our member service, really taking that to the next level. And now this moves into a different era in terms of enabling that human digital or AI partnership. And this is where I think that AI is going to become truly game-changing for us and I think for the world personally. So it'll help us scale our service and our abilities to really serve our members with speed, to personalize, in a very agile way, while preserving things like empathy and human judgment. So that doesn't change. It just takes it to a whole different level. So what is our vision for Agentic AI? So when we talk about Agentic AI, for us, it's not about replacing our people. It's about really creating those digital partners that will act behind the scenes alongside, hand in hand with our staff to sense what needs are there amongst our members, reduce the friction, personalize service. So it is like Sumit was saying earlier, it's AI that doesn't sleep, right? It is an agent who never sleeps, who's constantly scanning to make our member experience better, faster, more personal. So for us, where do we see us really unleashing the power of Agentic AI? Our mission is anchored in providing superior member service, and that's what we do. We get awards for it. We have a really high net promoter score today, all because of the excellent service that we provide our members day in and day out. And with AI as that digital partner, I think we can take it to the next level in terms of how we really scale our service operations. So, and every AI investment we make, there's only one lens through which we examine whether we're getting return on that investment. It is how can we deepen the trust, the care, and the responsiveness that we provide to our members. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to reflect the same empathy and the care and the trust that our members place in our human staff with this AI. So for us, it's about a partnership between the human and the AI to really give us wings that we can take off with. So at the end of the day, for us, it is agents working with our people. It's not instead of them. So when we design our systems, we want to make sure that we design it with the same embedded trust and governance within our AI agents that will give us, will preserve the trust and the confidence that our members place in our, in our company and our human agents. So talking about, an architecture. So what you see in front of you is a conceptual architecture that we have come up with to kind of make sense at a concept level as to what is agentic AI, how would we design for it. So this is really thinking about it in terms of how these intelligent agents will think, how they will perceive, reason, and act responsibly. And in the middle, you see that, that central spine there. That is non-negotiable for us. This is as we build these systems, we want to make sure that we are building trust and governance along the way at each layer of the pyramid. So at the bottom layer, and each layer builds on top of the other, right? So from the bottom up. So if you look at perception is where AI takes in signals. It is where it is able to tap into the voice, text, all the multimedia that we talked about earlier today, we heard about. And receiving that in real time, it's the sensory input which essentially awakens the AI. And how do you build trust at that layer? How do you build governance at that layer? It's all about ensuring that the data quality of those input signals are reliable, that they are timely. So that's where data quality becomes imperative, right? Because if that is garbled at the perception layer, everything you build on top of it is like a house of cards. It's going to come crashing down. So you want to think about that from the get-go. You want to think about building quality checkpoints as you build, those connectivity to all those signals that help you, power your agent. Then at the next layer, you have the memory and context. And this is where Teradata will give us the, wings to fly. We've already built a lot of that memory and context within Teradata with our structured data. We're in the process of adding to it the unstructured pieces as well. So this is the agent's ability to recall and apply all of the history, take that history, take the policies and the patterns that it sees in order to really personalize and remember across member interactions. It will help us respond accordingly. It will take all of this and help us make sense of it. And at this layer, how do you build trust and governance? It's all about tracing back, making sure that you have the right metadata, the semantics, all of that is something you can tap into, the lineage, so that you know that what you have there is, where the data is coming from, how the data is being used, how the data is being interpreted. So all of that is, you want to make sure that you're building that from the get-go as you construct these layers. The next layer is the inference layer, which is again where Teradata is a strength for us, where it is where the intelligence happens. It is where the models come into play. We built a churn model. We built next best offer models. These will predict, but we also will use generative AI models, LLMs, that can basically summarize output. It can bring interpretability and explainability to the models that we have. And it could also tap into other types of rule-based decision engines. Nothing is precluded here. So here, how do you preserve governance and trust? It is through model explainability and making sure that we're able to bring good model governance into play. And then the next layer is the orchestration layer. This is where the policy-driven coordination occurs. So it's this layer that will bring together multiple models, rules, data sources, et cetera, to achieve a goal. So if it's adjudicating between, it has already accessed at the inference layer, it has already accessed a churn model, for instance. Now it is juxtaposing that with some type of a credit policy, and it's able to decide what type of recommendations to make in order to prevent the member from churning. It brings in the compliance rules that you would need before making an outreach, before taking an actual action, right? So in here, what you want is to be able to really be able to tap into the policy and rules enforcement to be able to capture that. What policy was fired? What type of rule was enforced, for instance, and be able to capture that and be able to make that available for audit. Somebody needs to be able to see what decisions were made as a result of these inferences. And then finally, at the top of that pyramid is the action layer. So for us, at least in the initial phases, we're thinking about human in the loop. We're not going to right away make this autonomous. So the agent will carry out or at least recommend actions, which, and then not only recommend, but we also want to monitor what type of actions were actually taken, and then see if that matches the goal that we are after. So if we are, if it is a retention agent, we care about making sure that we are actually making a difference with retention. And if those policies and the recommendations and the actions that were taken, do they align with all of that, right? So that in a nutshell is how we are thinking about this. And then, as we progress, this is a picture of what type of capabilities. So you saw that conceptual model. Now we want to take this, that conceptual model acts as a blueprint for us to be able to map capabilities, systems and things like that at each layer to understand what type of capabilities do we need to harness and develop. So at the perception level, you're talking about being able to implement like natural language understanding, sentiment analysis, real-time event processing, et cetera, right? So, and the governance will again focus on data quality, making sure we have the consent management in place so that we're not doing anything that violates any kind of privacy considerations. Then at the memory and context level, it's about using our ability to go after those tools like the MCPs we talked about, being able to access Teradata, being able to get the structured data out of our Teradata repositories. It's also about building those vector stores and playing around with the retrieval augmented generation techniques to let agents pull the knowledge from various repositories so that we have a very good, solid understanding of both long-term and short-term memory of the member, so that we can personalize the the recommendations we make for the member. And then at the inference layer, you're talking about the models. that we already have a head start on. We built several predictive models, but now pairing it with generative AI for more of that conversational type of reasoning. And then at the orchestration level, we're talking about building multiple agent workflows, tapping into business rules, engines, et cetera, to be able to navigate between multiple agents, essentially. And then at the action layer, it is about where all these decisions come together. And this would include any kind of deployment within CRM and being able to orchestrate omni-channel execution across all of our channels, whether it is a marketing type of a campaign or it is some type of a CRM update or going back into a digital banking, mobile banking applications. So while the previous slide, showed how we are thinking about agentic AI in terms of a conceptual architecture, this is about how we would actually go about engineering it. How would we start assembling and creating those capabilities systematically, while not forgetting that we need to keep in mind the governance piece of it. And then these are some reference technologies. In the short term, we're using, for various layers. At the perception layer, we're able to tap into digital banking events. We're able to bring in Adobe campaign, click-through rates, et cetera. In the future, we want this to be real-time. So we would want capabilities like Kafka streaming. And then at the memory context level, we already have Teradata that we're tapping into. And we would expand into more of those multi-dimensional data sets, and that would involve like AI search with some of the Azure tools. We're already using Overledge, which is our data governance platform for data lineage, et cetera. We may expand that into Microsoft Purview, for instance. And then at an inference layer, we're using Python, Anaconda for our, and SHAP to, to bring explainability to our models. And in the future, this would expand into some of the power tools. Again, we're looking at Azure ML for our ML ops. And also, expand into the RAG, LLM, and maybe some fine tuning there, although I think that's a little premature. And then at the orchestration level, we're doing more manual escalations at this point, but in the future, it would involve things like LangGraph, et cetera. And then at the action layer, we're using Adobe. That's our marketing campaign stack. And then in the long term, we think we would have real-time APIs and the ability to be able to push this back into some of our front-end facing systems. So that is, in a sense, the reference technologies that we plan to use. The one constant you can see across all of this, it's Teradata, right? So Teradata is at the hub of everything we're planning to do. And this is a little bit of an eye chart. There's a lot going on here, but what I'd like to say is, whether it's today, it's serving as our Member 360 aggregated system of record. Tomorrow, we see it as our system of intelligence. We see it as expanding Teradata as our governed inference layer, executing models, et cetera, acting as a policy decision point. And then together with a tool like Microsoft Purview, we can anchor our governance framework within this so that we ensure every AI decision remains explainable, it's compliant, it's trustworthy. This shows you progression in terms of how we think about how do we get from where we are to where we want to go in terms of a roadmap, a reference roadmap. So initially in Horizon 1, it's about bringing, creating that groundwork, making sure that we have all the pieces that we need in order to, start, it's almost like building a puzzle, right? You want all those pieces assembled first. And then you think in terms of orchestrating, how do you start building pieces of it? and then its overall operationalization when the whole thing is, the magic is happening at the connected level. So in Horizon 1, the strengths that we have are really the structured data that's all sitting in one place for us. We already have a bunch of predictive models. Essentially, it's isolated, but it's there. There are some gaps, especially in terms of governance, because the governance is not really embedded in our AI workflows today. It's kind of separate. So that's something that we have, and then we don't have we have limited real-time feedback. We don't have real-time data. So this is a big limitation. So that's something we would want to address in Horizon 2, where we want to go from an isolated view of things to a more connected intelligence. We'll be adding things like orchestration, building that episodic and semantic memory, applying more of the generative AI models in feedback loops. We want to do more integrated governance work with Azure ML, where we want to be able to leverage the power of some of these Azure apps. So there are some strengths, but there are still things that we need to work out before we can get to that second level. And then finally, this is where all the magic starts happening, where we can reach that intelligent orchestration with the human in control, which is our vision. So we're able to collaborate agents across channels. We're able to bring in those feedback loops. We're able to understand, how well we are doing against that goal-driven intelligence. And, for us, at this point, AI becomes a trusted teammate along with our humans that's able to amplify all that we're doing. These are just additional slides. And so how do you go about analyzing your strengths and gaps across each of the different layers that we talked about in the conceptual architecture? So the perception layer, it's about being able to hear, the AI being able to hear the member across all channels, and is it able to do it in real time, right? And then at the memory and context level, it's about remembering the past intent, being able to remember and bring back context historically, being able to apply the right policy at the right time to the right member, and then moving up that chain to the inference, being able to have models that are well-governed, they are trusted, they are connected to real-world action, and finally that orchestration where decisions are coordinated across all of our channels. Do we have the human in control there? Are we able to govern the type of decisions we are making? And then finally, at the action level, tracking what has happened, how are we measuring the performance, and using that to refine the AI. So this is a reference roadmap of things that we have identified as key use cases for us in terms of how we would deploy agentic AI. So as you can see, at the center is the human. So we don't think of this as something that is autonomous, at least in the initial stages. It's about having a welcome agent, for instance, help onboard our members, being perceptive of any kind of challenges our new members have. This is all done very manually today, and a lot of it happens within our branches as well. So this would be something where the AI could really help our members, our in-house staff really amplify the service that they provide in this regard. And then the retention agent, that will be able to latch on to any kind of disengagement that we see and be able to take those timely actions to prevent any kind of churn. The fee resolution agent, where members have questions about fees, to be able to do that with ahead in a proactive way so that we can anticipate, any kind of, bad experiences on the part of the member. And then the fraud, we have fraud models today that do a lot of our transaction fraud monitoring in a proactive way, but this will really help us protect our members and take that to a different level. And then the channel navigator is really about detecting frustration and routing members so that they can have the best experience across the channel that is optimized for them. So this, in a nutshell, is what we have, in our front, in front of us, the vision that we've laid out for us. And just to, give you some takeaways, for us, it is not, again, I'll reiterate this, it's not about replacing humans. It is about using intelligence to scale our services. It's not just being automation for the sake of automation. It's about scaling our service by amplifying our care and coaching and the service that we provide our members. And, agentic AI, all of us should kind of step back and, take a breath and know that it's not a destination, it's a journey. It'll continually evolve. It's a capability that is emerging and that we all need to focus on, but it starts with building the right foundation, and that foundation is with what we do, what we have been doing with Teradata. It starts with making sure that you have the right governance models in place. It starts with building that data lake and the data lake house. And you mature it and grow it to these systems that can reason and that truly can help you gain that partnership with a digital equivalent that can take your game to the next level. At this point, we have a small demo that we have created, and I'd like to invite Jonathan to come to the stage. And Jonathan is our data scientist.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to provide a small, synopsis of what is it you're going to see. We were planning a live demo, but given the fact that we were encountering a lot of latency with the interactions with the LLM, we decided it wasn't a good thing to do. So here we are envisioning this as a co-pilot within the contact center. So a member is calling into the contact center essentially, and then we're triggering the agent. The human agent is essentially talking to the co-pilot to get recommendations so that it can interact in turn with the members. That's what you're going to see.
It definitely represents the early steps that we're taking to materialize some of this vision that Sue laid out for the company. And also is an example of starting small, starting early. So take that as it is. And so in terms of the building blocks, no matter who is building it, an agent needs to be aware of its context, right? And it's dynamic. So essentially, the whole thing needs to sit on live data and needs to be able to use policies or your business decision rules to actually give you recommendations. So the agent, in our case, the associate that's helping the member, can take the correct decisions. And so what we have here, you can see that in terms of building blocks for the context that the agent needs to orchestrate and to make decisions. You can see at the bottom we have Teradata tool. This today, as of today, is much more enriched, right? We not only have structured data, we know we're going to have vector store, we know we're going to have some other things coming along. So in the data that we have for this demo is actually sitting on a few tables that contains our score, model score, that we score daily, and as well as some of the live transactional data. So retention policy tool. Here, we are essentially putting the decision rules. What do you do if someone is high risk, high value, low risk, low value? What are some of the business rules that you all agreed upon that what should be the recommendation, what to do with it? Search tool, this is where you're enlarging the context to make sure you can go beyond the knowledge base of the LLM. We know it's static, right? And you need to be able to access to at least the content that's on your company website and the latest rate, for example. And in terms of semantic tools, as we all know, there are a lot of specific business values or labels that you need to put somewhere. So when you actually show it through LLM, it actually comes through as someone that can make that understandable. So we built essentially a semi-structured data tool for the LLM to interact it. It's a JSON tool. So even though I laid it out, stacked it up, you should visualize this as a network in that all of these are agents. Within them, they can have tools. Within tools, you can call agents. So it's really can be made fairly complex. But at a high level, this is what we're dealing with. So the orchestration, the only thing that goes outside of Delta Community Union is that language model access. We actually call ChatGPT through our enterprise account, in which we have all of the security clearance. We already have that taken care of. So that any data that's loaded up through this conversation is protected. We also, since this is an experimentation, early development, we also took care, we took out all of the personal account information. So when we say member 20, that number is obviously a fake one. So that's the structure that we have. As you can see, there can be clearly mapped to the hierarchy that architect that Sue showed in some of these critical components you must have, right, for an automated agent to be able to think and to go through that chain of thoughts to come up with the right answers. So let's see. Now, you have to visualize yourself sitting in a call center, someone called up. And so I'll say, my name is Jonathan, my member account is 20, I'm having these issues with my account. Recently, I had a fee of some sort, right? Imagine yourself sitting there, and at the current state, we don't actually have an easy way to bring all of the information, especially with model results, together to provide that agent the necessary recommendations, what to do with this particular call. So you start, this is the start of that conversation, you go, I need information from member 20. Please pull that out. So this is the part where nothing special. You can build this one very quickly. All you need is a little tool to be able to direct tap into Teradata. Give me member information. So it immediately spits out what you want. As you know, if you have played with this, you can design specific format, ask specific information in a specific way. So for us to make a retention decision, these are the critical things we need. We need what's their account balance, meaning how much money they've been, or how much they are using us. And you can see the tenure as well as some of the services they have with us. So these are some of the critical things a service associate needs to be, right, to have in front of them. So when the recommendation comes, they can see the context of it. All right, so you carry on the conversation. You say, all right, please, I see there is a fee. Of course, you confirm that. Bring up the latest transactions. So you go to a different Teradata table. In our case, it's our biggest database. They'll go pull the information for that specific particular member in the tool that I asked for 90 days. Since in this specific question, just give me the transactions for fee-related transactions. So it brings up the latest fees. All right, you can see the thing is already recommending what do you do with it because it knows, right, knows the tools that are provided. So it's already thinking about next thing to do. And you say, go ahead, do it. So I ask you to go ahead, make a waiver recommendation. So this is where the magic happens, all right? To be able to make that recommendation, the agent not only needs to know all of the information that's pulled up at this point, it also needs to know all of the relevant policy values as well as the rules that you put into the system. And we've made that into a little tool. We call that policy tool. But you can imagine, right, instead of retention, you can put a lot of rules inside of it, and the agent knows which one to go to figure it out, what to do. So it gives you the recommendation. In this case, as you can see, I call this first member. Can you name this member based on the values that you saw, the balance amount, the times, number of times this person had the fees? So think about it. What would you call this member? And you can also see the churn score is a high score, means low churn probability. So the person has been with us for a while. It seems like a habitual person that forgets to look at their balance account, right? So in this case, we're not going to give the fee waiver because there's low risk of churning. And also it's not high value, so we're not getting them special care. This was built into that intelligence, right? So that's first member. And you try to name the second member. You probably can already guess. So the first one is low value, somewhat habitual fee, having fees. All right, another member calls in the afternoon. My account number is 644. This is my name, Jonathan. And go post information. You can see it comes back with a consistent format, right? You saw in some of the earlier demonstrations, sometimes the thing gives you the information back in a different way. But you can ask the tool to give you in the way you want it. Sometimes for business decision making, you need to have this kind of replicable results. Can't have the tool always come up with different answers. That's no good, right? So it gives you similar amount of, but you can see this is a very different person. A lot of money with us, right? A lot of money with us. Also has been with us for a long time. So, and it looks for the fee. So I'm just going to click through. You can see the conversation. I went to check out all of the transactions. You can see this person only had one fee. So the tool knows it's an isolated event with a high value member. And also, the risk of churning is high. You can see some of the churn activity and go, give me a recommendation. And this time, it gives back a different decision. So I'm going to go ahead, waive your fee this time in light of the information I just saw. So these are the two interactions that we captured, obviously in our little tool, to illustrate to you that to be able to make critical decisions, and you ought to be able to have the tools to connect to all your context. So here we demonstrated how to do it for the structured data, semi-structured data, and your policy rules, searching the web. So some of the decisions, actually recommendations what to do is coming from our DCCU site. So to enlarge, to make sure that context is wide enough, is updated enough. And then also using the LLM to orchestrate. You see, this greatly reduced the training. If someone, an associate is new, right, they haven't been trained with a lot of the policy and the procedures within the company, this is a great side help for them, right? So I'll end there and entertain any questions you may have.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is helpful.
Any questions? Oh, there we go. Can we do my quick commute back here? There you go, sir.
So I think I'll tap on your high-level diagram. You said that you have like a level of tools, right? And you mentioned those tools are your agents. So you have like a higher agents talking to multiple agents. Is that something which you guys are doing?
Yes, more specifically, I built a structured agent. I was actually talking to any tables that's inside Teradata. I just give a list of tables, and it can talk to any table. And one of the keys here is to make it simple. We're serving members, so every time the conversation is about a member, so there is no great big join that you have to join to find something. It always goes to table because all of our tables are keyed by member ID. So it goes there, can find it quickly. So in other applications, you may have to do something else, right? If joins are involved, then it can take a while to come back. So I have the Teradata as an agent, and the policy is actually Python function encoding all of the rules that we want to put in there. When do you recommend waiver? When you don't, depending on what values. You also see besides the balance, right, and the score, we label them high, low, and medium, and any label you may give them. Those are very specific business values. That's only meaningful to your company. That needs to be encoded somewhere. So I have that DCCU semantic tool. That's essentially a semi-structured tool where you can put a very big JSON file to essentially encode anything that you want to encode inside there. Just key value pair, you can search, you have the tool search whatever that's needed for the policy. Okay. So that's how it's done.
Yeah, and then you provide that JSON inside that agent
Correct,
as a
correct.
knowledge base?
Correct.
Okay.
For example, even after first question, pull up the information. If you just simply ask, what's the value band for this member? It will give you, it will go to the JSON tool to go find the value band.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah.
Any other questions? There we go, nice.
Are you using Teradata or any AI interventions for anti-money laundering compliance, due diligence creation, or
No,
suspicious
we
activity?
use a proprietary system, Verifin, I think, right, for our AML. So it's developed by a QSO. These are service organizations that create software that many credit unions use. So we benefit from the data that is collected across credit unions, so you can look across institutions. So that's the value there, going with a solution like that. So we're not just looking internally, we're looking externally as well.